Warm welcome to this special guest lecture. Which is part of the, on the one hand, the EuroMaster program here at the Brussels School of Governance. Great to see you students joining the class. The Greek economy course couldn't get a better start than having a true expert working in the midst of the greening of the economy here in the European Union, in the European Commission. And at the same time, those of you who are joining online as part of the Jean Monnet Ecovalence chair, and here we acknowledge the financial contribution of the European Commission's Erasmus Plus funding for being able to arrange this. The structure and the program for tonight is very simple. We will have Vesa Terävä, who is coordinating the European Green Deal within the Secretary General of the Commission, and is therefore in the midst of Europe's current, let's say, policy strategies, not just actually in environmental terms, but more broadly speaking. And Vesa will be providing his insights on where we are with this massive Commission strategy today, and a little bit about how things have progressed, and we'll reflect a little bit also on how the future looks like when looked at from that perspective. He will talk about maybe 45 minutes or even up to an hour. We will certainly have plenty of time for questions for you as well. I think he will not be unhappy if you have a question in the middle and just raise your hand, and if anything is unclear or you want to immediately interact, don't hesitate to do that. But as said, we will definitely have plenty of time in the end, and make good use of having him here with us tonight with your questions in the end of this. Any questions that I can? My name obviously is Harri Kalima, as the convener of the core and the chair is in this course. So I think that but self-evident, but anyways, is a welcome. So warm welcome once again, and I think Vesa, with that, we will leave the floor to you, and we will just simply sit back and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Harri, and thanks for inviting me, and good evening, colleagues and students. Very happy to give you a presentation on the European Green Deal, where we are coming from, and where we are at the moment, and what we can expect in the coming months and coming years. I think this lecture is very timely for many reasons, in particular for the reasons that COP27 started today in Sharm el-Sheikh, which is the annual conference on one side to take a stock where we are, and of course on that basis, and very importantly to get the necessary commitment from all the countries around the world to meet the Paris Agreement commitment. So it's a very important moment. It's important also for us as Europeans to go to that conference with something concrete, that we have delivered something on our commitments, and of course, there's a lot of work still needed, but we already see some results of the, let's say, process that started in 2019 when this Commission took the office and presented as a first real item the European Green Deal strategy. And I will come a bit later on what we have delivered and where we are with our deliverables. Okay, so Green Deal was the first strategy this Commission and this college adopted when started this term 2019, and of course there is the climate crisis. There's the Paris Agreement, which of course was reason why the Commission adopted the strategy. But it's not only to respond to the climate change. It's also to respond to the climate crisis and the environmental crisis in a way that it keeps and maintains the competitiveness of our economy. So first of all, if we believe that if we are in a front line in taking the climate challenge seriously, we also build a competitive edge which will allow us, our industries, of course, to build green solutions where there will be more demand for those in the coming years, but at the same time also create green jobs for people who will need to, of course, move from those sectors which are currently using, in particular, a lot of fossil fuels or otherwise not climate friendly, to take up these new opportunities. And being in the front line of this, we believe is important and provides Europe with the competitive edge also in the future. So it's of course responding to the climate crisis, but it's at the same time our growth strategy by which we try to separate the economic growth from resource uses, and that of course will bring us later on to the importance of circular economy as part of the strategy. Now, the European Green Deal, as Harri already mentioned in the beginning, it's a vast strategy. It includes a number of areas, a number of sub-strategies, which on the basis of which the Commission has proposed a number of legislative initiatives, which are now either in the co-legislative process or still under preparation. So what is important, of course, is the European climate law to the kind of support to this whole exercise. So we have now law at European level adopted by the co-legislators last year, which sets a binding targets for our climate response. So to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030 and aim for climate neutrality by 2050. And this is important because it's in the law, it's agreed by the member states and the parliament, and it gives a strong basis for the additional measures which are currently being negotiated. And then on the basis of the climate law, the Commission worked on the climate package, climate and energy package, which we adopted last year, which you may have, of course, you have heard about it, Fit for 55 package, which consists of 13 different legislative proposals, and I come also to those in the next slides. But broadly speaking, they cover the climate policy, so how we reduce greenhouse gas emissions through emission trading, effort sharing, and by different standards. It includes the transport policy. Transport, of course, plays an important role in making our societies and economies climate neutral. Sorry, we will need to decrease emissions from transport sector by 90% by 2050 if we want to achieve the climate neutrality. And this is a big challenge because from over the past 20 years, the emissions in the transport sector have increased. Then, of course, the energy transition plays an important role. Energy sector constitutes and contributes to greenhouse gas emissions 75%. So it's very important to get rid of the fossil fuels. Also important to make sure that we have a land sector such that it can absorb greenhouse gas emissions. So one side we need to reduce, and that's of course the main emphasis, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but then we should also have the land sector, in particular forests and soils, in such a conditions that they can absorb greenhouse gas emissions. That's about the climate part, but the Green Deal is not about the climate policy only. It's also the biodiversity, the environmental part. we will have to stop the biodiversity loss we are witnessing at the moment, and the biodiversity strategy and all the, let's say, proposals stemming from that strategy are important in that respect. Of course, all this transition has important impact on different economic sectors. There are those sectors which will benefit from the transition. There's those sectors which will lose, and we have to ensure that just transition, smooth transition. Therefore, what is important already from the public acceptance point of view is that we manage this transition in such a way that people feel that they have also the future, and they will have in the future the skills which are needed to work and ensure production in those sectors which will then be part of the green economy. If I start with the climate and go a little bit further to details. So I already mentioned the climate law, which is a basis and for all our climate actions, and I think it's already in from the global scale, it's a very ambitious and exceptional measure and let's say proposal which we put forward and which has been accepted. And on that basis, then in July last year, 2021. The Commission adopted the Fit for 55 package. I already mentioned package of 13 or 14, depends how you count. Let's say proposals which should ensure that we achieve the target minus 55% by 2030. It includes measures, I think you can put them in the three categories. So on one side, we try to exploit the market mechanism. So an emission trading system is key there. It has proven over the past 16 years be a very effective and efficient way of reducing emissions. If you put a price to carbon, it incentivizes then different sectors to make their production processes as efficient and at least emitting as possible. Because you would always pay for each ton of greenhouse gases you emit to the atmosphere. So it's a very efficient system. So it has been in place in 16 years. And what we are now doing, we are reinforcing the system in two different ways, or even three. And the way we reinforce emission trading system is first that we reduce the number of allowances over time available in the market. So if you have a few less and less allowances, either you then pay for more, or you make your production process more efficient and less emitting, so that you don't need that many allowances. This is one way of making the emission trading more efficient, and that we do also in different ways. First of all, we set the level where we start at the lower level compared to the past, and also we reduce the number of allowances more every year. Also in this context, what is important is so-called free allowances. So at the moment, even if normally the sectors who are subject to emission trading, like energy intensive industry, electricity and heating production, or aviation, part of the allowances they get for free. And why do they get those allowances for free? It is because these undertakings, they compete, of course, in the global market, and we don't have such an emission trading system in many countries. There are a few exceptions in the world, but Europe is the main area region where we have emission trading. And if our companies need to pay for the emission allowances, of course, that puts them in a very difficult situation when they need to compete with undertakings from other worlds. And this was addressed in the past by free allowances. So now we propose that those free allowances will disappear over time. And that's, of course, part of the current negotiations, how long we should still have free allowances. But instead, we put a system which is called carbon border adjustment mechanism. So we will make those companies who import products in the sectors which is covered by emission trading products to Europe. And if in those countries you don't have emission trading system in place, then those importers, they will have to buy what we call carbon certificates, which corresponds more or less what our undertakings pay for emission allowances. So on one side, we will reduce the free allowances, but on the other side, we will make our international competitors to pay for the carbon certificate if they want to sell their products in the European market. And emission trading, indeed, as I said, it's a very efficient and important part of this package. We are also extending the emission trading by covering more and more sectors with it. And what we proposed last year is that transport and the building sector or heating sector should be covered by emission trading. Emission trading is not the ultimate solution, so we need also other measures. And then we have a number of standards we set for targets we set for different sectors. For instance, for transport sector, we put the CO2 standards for cars, and you may have noticed last week or 2 weeks ago, the co-legislators, they already achieved an agreement on one of these proposals, which is the CO2 standards for the car, which lays down that as from 2035, you can't emit any more greenhouse gas emissions from cars and vans, basically meaning that you have to electrify the sector. So there are standards, and then there are other targets like aviation sector. Even if it's covered by the emission trading, there's an obligation with our proposals that aircrafts they will need to blend kerosene with the sustainable aviation fuels, and the percentage of that of those sustainable aviation fuels increases over time. Or that in the maritime sector, the vessels they will have to reduce the greenhouse gas intensity of their fuels over time. So these different proposals and legislative initiatives work together and support each other. Then on energy sector, obviously we need to increase the share of renewable energy in our energy mix, and that of course has become even more important with the current crisis and the war in Ukraine, when we want to get rid of fossil fuels, and in particular now from the Russian fossil fuels. So that in renewables, we even strengthened our proposal earlier this year in May by setting a target that in 2030, 45% of our energy is produced from renewable sources. Energy efficiency is another important element, and that's interesting because it's also something which should be in the incentive of all economic operators, economic actors to reduce their energy consumption already for the reason that they don't need to pay the high bills, but at the same time, when you use less energy, obviously you are also contributing our climate objectives. So in energy efficiency, we have targets on energy savings, how much also in particular different sectors, public sector should save energy every year. And that proposal is closely linked also to what we call energy performance of buildings. The building sector is emitting a lot. It represents over 30% of all our emissions. So if we are renovating our buildings and apartments to be energy efficient, we make an important contribution to our climate objectives. So all this is to explain how these different initiatives are closely interlinked and interconnected, and none of these would deliver alone. But we need all these. We need the pricing, the market mechanism. We need standards, and we need targets. And then for the rest, we have what we call effort sharing regulation. So what we don't cover with these instruments I already mentioned, then we have an obligation for member states to take measures in all these sectors to cover the remaining part. And there are different targets set for member states how much they should reduce emissions in the different effort sharing sectors. So this is the Fit for 55, which is, I would say, the core of the Green Deal. And where we are, I already mentioned the preparations, July 2021. And what is quite, well, we were positively surprised that 1 year after we made the proposal, the co-legislators had on their side already their position, so that we could start right after summer and already during the summer the first dialogues. And we are now in a good position to conclude these negotiations by the end of the year. That's possible. Whether it happens, of course, remains to be seen, but it's within reach. And that brings me to energy and importance of decarbonizing our energy system. I already mentioned the renewable target, 45% 2030 energy saving targets. All these targets we increased earlier this year, and this is linked to the war. And there is of course nothing positive from the war, but what it has, the impact it has had in the legislative scene and how our council and the parliament react to our climate and energy package. What we have seen is that everybody, there were of course some voices that is this too drastic what we are doing in Europe? What is the impact on in particular those sectors and those people who still rely very much on the use of fossil fuels, and which is of course a legitimate concern. But with the war, I think everybody understood that we need to accelerate our clean energy transition, and we need to accelerate in different ways. And for that, we, the Commission, in the spring this year, prepared what we call Repower EU plan, and it's entirely consistent with our climate package, because what we do in the Repower EU plan is that we emphasize even more than before the importance of energy savings. That is the best way to reduce the consumption of fossil fuels, reduce the consumption, in particular the Russian fossil fuels. And this is something which the Commission is working still very hard, and I think the message has also been spread across the member states that what we need to do now in short term during this energy crisis is to save energy. Whether it's use of gas or whether it's use of electricity. And of course, that's important for the crisis at the moment. It's of course important objective in the longer term. We also need to diversify our supply away from Russia, and that of course in short term means that we may replace, and we need to replace the Russian fossil fuel, Russian fossil gas with fossil gas from elsewhere. That of course doesn't contribute to our green objective, but everybody acknowledges that the deployment of renewables, even if we accelerate it, will not happen as fast that we could easily switch off from gas. And the third element, which is fully in line, of course, with the green objective, is the massive investment in renewable energy. And the way we try to help this is that we have still, even with the package we adopted last year, we have still identified a number of issues where we as a legislator and where authorities at member states level could facilitate the rollout, be it wind energy, onshore, offshore, or be it solar installation. And that is one big obstacle there is permitting. It's very time consuming. It can take up to 7 to 10 years to get permits to start building your wind park or your solar installation. So we are streamlining permitting provisions, and there will be, by the way, this Wednesday another proposal from the Commission to accelerate permitting. But all this, of course, requires a lot of money. And I come at the very end of this presentation the whole question of financing, but I can already here mention that the multi-annual financial framework, the 7-year program, the Commission has to finance all the different activities and all the different funding programs. They have an obligation to invest at least 37% to green objectives and which contribute to our green objectives. And then we have Next Generation EU, the Commission proposed, and then consequently the legislators accepted, financing the recovery from COVID. Also that includes obligations to invest in green transition, 37%. All that is of course needed for not only for REPowerEU objectives, but for the implementation of the Fit for 55. But of course, most of this financing will need to come from the private sector, and for that, of course, Commission has taken a number of initiatives. The sustainable financing framework and all the discussion on the taxonomy, what can be considered as a green investment, so that we help also the financial community to invest in activities which contribute to the climate objectives.